Welcome back to Strike Fighters 2 North Vietnam. We are flying J-5 Frescoes with the First Flight 923rd Yen Fighter Regiment out of Kep Air Base, North Vietnam. Today's date is December 24th, and December was a pretty busy month in the course of the real war. On December 10th, the U.S. Pacific Command divided North Vietnam into 6 route packages, and each route pack was a zone of control, and they were split between the U.S. Navy and U.S. Air Force, and they started down at Route Pack 1 in the south, right at the DMZ, and then as they moved north, they went all the way up to Route Pack 6 in the Hanoi and Haiphong area. On December 22nd, so only 2 days before this, the first North Vietnamese SA-2 site was finally destroyed by F-100F Wild Weasels, and the Wild Weasel program was also in its infancy. They had just arrived and were figuring out their own tactics and how to do business. And then finally, beginning today, on December 24th, Christmas Eve of '65, President Johnson orders a bombing pause that will last through January 31st of 1966. His hope was that the destruction caused by the gradual escalation of bombing targets in North Vietnam would now force the North Vietnamese to the peace treaty table, and after a month of silence from Hanoi, it was clear that the North Vietnamese had no intention of giving up so easily, and bombings resumed come February. But apparently the bombing halt will not take place until later today, because right now we have some American aircraft on their way, and so our mission today is to provide a combat air patrol over the KFAT barracks, prevent enemy aircraft from approaching the vicinity. Our call sign is the Nat Chew flight. We'll be taking 4 J-5 Frescoes, take off 7:28 in the morning, over the target by 7:48, back to Kep by 8:21. Nothing spectacular in the loadout, just our usual 2 400-liter drop tanks for a total takeoff weight 13,000 pounds. We're going to need these extra fuel tanks today because it's going to take quite a bit to get down to KFAT. Sure, it's only a 20-minute flight, but that means it's a 40-minute flight both ways, plus whatever fuel we use actually in combat down around the area. So fuel usage is going to be our biggest concern on today's mission, because I would consider this a long-range mission for this particular aircraft. So we're going to take off from Kep and circle around down to the southwest to waypoint 3, out here over the mountains of western North Vietnam. Altitude assignment today is 13,600 feet, but I'm not going to be going up that high. We have to find some sort of balance today, because I want to get the fuel economy of being at a high altitude, but we can't be so high that we are clearly on the American radars. So we're going to have to find the best way to strike that balance, maybe be on their radars for a while, and then duck down to low altitude. Not really sure yet, but we will have the elevation of the mountains to contend with also. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere around 3,000 to 5,000 meters for the ride in, and then we'll duck down to a much lower altitude, maybe like 1,000 meters, once we approach the area. I don't know. We'll just have to play it by ear. Our waypoint is going to bring us pretty far to the west in North Vietnam today. In fact, this VC squad, Viet Cong, down here to the southwest, I suspect that they are not even in Vietnam here. I bet they're in Laos at this point along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, ferrying supplies from North Vietnam down through Laos, through Cambodia, and then distributing it to Viet Cong down in South Vietnam around the Saigon area. Right here in this area, Laos is fairly skinny, and then we've got Thailand just on the other side there, with NKP not too far away from us, just on the other side of those mountains there, so fairly close. Anyways, after we hit waypoint 3, then we're down to the southeast, crossing over the Ka River just outside of Vinh, heading to our initial point over Ben Loi, and then finally heading into our intercept point over KFAT base itself. We're going to shoot down as many American aircraft as we can, but I suspect we're going to run out of fuel fairly quickly, and once that happens, once we're low, then it's an escape out to the northwest, back up to that same point over the mountains, and then we'll bang a right back into the capital area to return to Kep. Our squadron's holding strong at 20 aircraft, but the other flights in the 923rd aren't doing so hot. Second flight is down to 10 aircraft, and the third flight is down to 9, so they are at 50% or less already. And over at Phuc Yen, the 921st is doing just as bad. Here's the third flight down to 12 aircraft, Fourth flight down to 9 and only 28% supply. First flight, the guys that we just left a couple of months ago, they're down to 9 aircraft. So a lot of those guys that we came to know and love from the old squadron have probably been killed at this point. They're also down to 25% supply, which is getting pretty low. In fact, if losses keep going like this, a bunch of these squadrons are going to be stood down, and they'll probably head north out into China, into the safety of China, where the Americans will not go, so that they can lick their wounds and recuperate and maybe get some replacements going. So we may start seeing squadrons going away fairly soon as they retreat up over the border. Finally, the roster. Lieutenant Win Van Koch in Nat Chu 1. Second Lieutenant Pham Tan Chow is in Nat Chu 2, leader of the second element, Captain Pham Dang Truck, who got his first air-to-air kill with us last mission, and number 4 Lieutenant Win Qua Tan in Nat Chu 4. Alright, that wraps up the briefing. Long mission today. We'll see you out there. Nat Chu flight, runway 12, ready for departure. Traditional Vietnamese weather, making it a very murky day. Heavy clouds above, making it very dark, so I'm going to click on the nav lights for at least the first part of the flight, increase my visibility while we're getting the squadron into formation. And we are ready to go, so let's push the throttle forward. WP5 engine spooling up. Full power, afterburner. Engages, brakes released. Slight crosswind coming from the right on takeoff today. Speed's looking good. There's 200 kph. And there's 300. Rotate. And we glide off the runway just past the control tower. Gear up. Flaps up. And we'll pull the power back as we make our climb out to 1,000 meters. Command and control station out to our left, one of the many GCI, or ground controller intercept stations, scattered all around North Vietnam. Here in 1965, that Vietnamese air defense network slowly growing. Johnson and McNamara refusing to bring the full might of the US to bear, so we're going to take advantage of that and continue to build our defenses. City of Bac Giang out to our right, just south of the airfield, and 2 is airborne. And we're going to put the squadron in stacked 3 formation today. There's 1,000 meters. I'm going to level out for just a minute, pull the power way back. I'm going to begin my turn to the left to circle around, and the squadron will come up and get into formation as we're making the turn down to the southwest.
Số 3, tàu trên trời, ngóc chiều, như diệt nhiên 007. Tao thấy cái gì?
The overarching theme of the Vietnam War is always one of murky political waters and the problems they caused. Usually we only hear about this from the American side, but in fact it wasn't something that only the Americans dealt with. In the middle of the war, Vietnam's 2 benefactors broke their alliance and became bitter rivals, leaving North Vietnam in the middle. The Sino-Soviet Split was a complicated event that was a long time coming and had long-lasting effects. The Soviets and Communist China first became allied in the aftermath of World War II. With the Japanese defeated, the Chinese alliance immediately fell apart, and the numerous factions resumed their civil war. After 4 years, Mao Zedong and his communists won the war, and the nationalist government retreated to Taiwan in 1949. Stalin had supported Mao in both wars, and now in 1950, the 2 leaders signed the Treaty of Friendship and Alliance and Mutual Assistance. Stalin loaned $300 million to China for rebuilding, as well as a promise of military aid in the event of war. Stalin then died in 1953, throwing the USSR into turmoil. When the dust finally settled, leadership was restored to an 8-man committee of collective leadership. Almost immediately, many of Stalin's directives were reversed. Taxes were reduced, and thousands of political prisoners were released. The new leadership was interested in a less hostile relationship with the West and helped negotiate the ceasefire of the Korean War. De-Stalinization continued as Nikita Khrushchev, first secretary of the Soviet Union, made a speech in 1956 openly criticizing Stalin and his interpretation of communism. This is the key point when Sino-Soviet relations began slowly deteriorating. Mao Zedong had emulated Stalin's leadership style and his brand of Marxism-Leninism when forming the People's Republic of China. Mao resented that attacks on Stalin now meant attacks on himself. Politically, Mao was also worried that friendly relations between the Soviets and the West would leave China isolated, and an anti-communist revolution in Hungary made him fear the possibility of one in China. In 1958, Mao began to go rogue. The Chinese Communist Party revised propaganda to introduce the character of Chairman Mao, the charismatic, omniscient leader solely qualified to control the country. Mao's Great Leap Forward, a program aimed at industrializing China, went against the advice of Soviet technical advisors in the country, and led to disastrous results for the people, land, and economy of China. Also in 1958, Mao launched an attack on Taiwan without informing the Soviets ahead of time. This worsened the failing political and personal relations between Mao and Khrushchev. Mao's actions were drawing the USSR unwillingly into American-Chinese affairs, especially when the US threatened nuclear war with both China and the Soviet Union if Taiwan was invaded. As the 1960s began, Mao and Khrushchev began personal attacks on each other and their views of communism. Mao viewed the Soviets as politically untrustworthy, soft, and unrevolutionary. He was offended by the USSR's dealings with the USA. Khrushchev considered Mao mentally unstable, with his hardline attitude and willingness to descend into nuclear war. The Soviet Union recalled 10,000 technicians and 1,500 political advisors from China, halting collaborative industrial projects between the two countries. In 1962, the distrust, insults, and widening interpretations on communism finally led to the Sino-Soviet Split. The People's Republic of China officially broke relations with the Soviet Union. Mao was disgusted with Khrushchev's actions, declaring that the Soviets should have gone to war with the US over the shoot-down of Gary Power's U-2 spy plane, the failed Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba, the economic embargo of Cuba, and most recently, the Cuban Missile Crisis. He insulted Soviet communism by declaring that a counter-revolution must have restored capitalism in the USSR. Khrushchev, in turn, accused Mao of out-of-control foreign policies that would lead to worldwide nuclear war, and happily cut ties. All of the Warsaw Pact countries followed suit and broke relations with China. The Cold War had now become a three-way standoff, and the idea of a global united front of communism had been shattered. On a practical level, the split had major repercussions. China now delayed or denied Soviet equipment deliveries to Vietnam, on several occasions actually seizing Soviet trains at the border for themselves. With millions of troops mobilized along both sides of the border, fighting broke out between the two countries in 1969 in the Sino-Soviet border conflict. Having to choose between the two countries, Vietnam sided with the Soviet Union, signing a new treaty in 1968 that provided for increased Soviet support. Mao responded by winding back Chinese aid and pulling all Chinese technical advisors from North Vietnam. The Sino-Soviet split made several lasting impacts. President Johnson's fears about Chinese and Soviet intervention were now no longer a threat. In fact, The new president, Richard Nixon, was given clear assurances by the Soviets that they had no intention of stepping in. Accustomed to the indecision of the Johnson administration, the North Vietnamese were shocked when the brutal attacks of the linebacker campaigns, free from Soviet retaliation, brought them finally to the negotiating table. Though the South would later be lost to the Communists, America finally got what it wanted and pulled out of the area. In 1979, China invaded Vietnam, beginning the Third Indochina War. Officially, the invasion was in response to Vietnam's occupation of Cambodia and its mistreatment of ethnic Chinese citizens, but it was also clear that China was still angry about Vietnam's betrayal 10 years earlier. The Chinese vice premier told President Jimmy Carter, "The little child is getting naughty. It's time he gets spanked." The Third Indochina War only lasted 4 weeks, with both sides claiming victory. The Chinese advanced around 10 miles into the northern border of Vietnam, where they stopped and declared their mission of punishing Vietnam accomplished. They then withdrew back to China, destroying infrastructure and housing, and looting any equipment or resources they could find, including livestock. This devastated the economy of Vietnam's northern provinces for years to come. Both sides lost thousands of troops, and thousands more Vietnamese civilians were killed. Despite China's claim of victory, the war was not an effective deterrent to Vietnam, as they continued their Cambodian occupation until 1989, and armed skirmishes along the Chinese border continued until then. A treaty formalizing the border wasn't signed until 1999, and final demarcation was finally approved in 2009.
Nhấp chiều được viên 007, chó đĩa, tiếp lái 50 cây số, 150 mét, hướng bắc.
So here we are, out over the mountainous, rugged territory of western North Vietnam, near the Laotian border. We're up at 3,000 meters, cruising in stacked 3 formation. You can see Captain Pham, my number 3, down and to the right on the far side of my aircraft. Number 2 is out ahead of me, and number 4 is high and right behind me. We've picked up American aircraft already moving into the area. Here's some F-4s from VF 103 on the way in. Looks like they're up in the cloud cover at the moment, which means we're going to have to watch out for their long-range radar and missiles. There's waypoint 3 reached, turning over to waypoint 4, heading southeast down to parallel the coast to get down to our target area. We're up at 3,000 meters, and you can see that a lot of these mountain peaks are actually above us still, so very, very rough terrain that we're going over. But that's doing us 2 favors. We're up at 3,000 meters, which is about 10,000 feet, so our engines are actually very fuel economic right now. We're saving some gas by being this high up, but at the same time, we're only a couple thousand feet above the actual terrain, so we're getting a lot of masking effects from that. These Phantoms out here at 103 nautical miles, we should be on their radars, but I'll bet that we're not, because we're so close to the ground here. Or at least close enough. I mean, not like we're skimming the mountaintops, but close enough to the ground, and we have all the crazy angles of the mountains, probably producing all sorts of weird ground clutter on their radars, so good news for us, hopefully still hidden. Let's check in with radar controllers, see what our nearest bandit is. 1 o'clock, 15 miles, real close, up at Angels 15. We have a random wild weasel directly in front of us, cruising by above the clouds, and he has no idea that we're here. Apparently a lone Super Saber loaded out with rockets, so he's on a wild weasel mission, heading out to search for radars or maybe some AAA sites. But he is crossing right over the top of us. I'm sort of tempted to jump up through the clouds and attack this guy, but we're going to need all the ammo and fuel that we can get once we get down to our actual mission area, and this guy is not our primary target, so We're just going to let him pass over. He seems pretty oblivious to us, and American radars are probably not picking us up to relay information to him that we're even here. In fact, let's start losing altitude because you can see the ground is sloping away. So let's get back down closer to it to make sure that we stay off those American radars. There's the Ka River up ahead. Vin is coming up on the left. Friendly squadron out ahead and to the left, just over Vin. Also heading to the same area that we are. Now we don't want to drop too low because that number 3 position is now low and to the right. So we don't want to drive him into the ground. Which he won't actually. We've already seen that the AI will maneuver to avoid terrain. In most cases. I think sometimes they get a little wackadoo and and they will fly in, but we'll try to avoid it. There's the Ka River, stretching out to the right. That F-100 is 15 miles away already, and behind us at 7 o'clock. In the game, the Ka River stops just a few miles out to our right, but in reality, that sucker keeps flowing, and if I remember right, ends up all the way out in Thailand, hundreds and hundreds of miles away to the west. Okay, a second F-4 squadron, VF-84, is in the area. Looks like he's engaging, well, actually I'm not sure, somewhere out to the west, out to our left. Closest bad guy is still that F-100, though, at 25 miles, so the F-4s are not even close to us. Let's pump up the jam a little bit so that we can get to the target area a little bit faster. I don't want to be behind if friendly squadrons are on their way in. That's the Quan Lung Army Base out there to the right, on the banks of the Ka River. Good to know that's there. If we have to make an escape out this way, that'll be a target to head towards to give us AAA cover. Ten plus band, it's 7 o'clock, 50 miles. So that F-100 looks like it's still the closest bad guy, so I don't know where these F-4s are. There's Vin, right out there to the left, and the Gulf of Tonkin within visual range as the Ka River flows into it. Yeah, there's Vin. I can even see shipping from here, so we're awfully close. Looks like a power station down there on the banks of the river, and a tank farm a mile or so beyond it. And more heavy mountains out to the right. Okay, finally! Bad guys at 25 miles ahead of us, and they're A4 Skyhawks. They're 33 miles out, 11 o'clock. We also have Crusaders in the area, apparently at 25 miles as well. Friendly flight ahead of us, passing over what I assume is the Ben Loi Army Base. You can see with all that AAA down there. So KFAT, not too far out. We may be able to see the Honson Mountain coming up out of the haze on our left along the coastline. That's due east out from KFAT. Still picking up the Crusaders, 25 miles out. Not really sure which squadron it has assigned as our primary target, so I think we're going to try to shoot down anything and everything, and then let the game sort it out whether we accomplished our mission or not. Coastline sort of disappearing out into the haze now. I think I can still sort of see blue beyond that mountain. It's getting harder to see. The haze is going to make visual targeting more difficult as well. The game's not going to let me target the enemies as easily, which is going to make it difficult to assign my wingmen to attack. Down to 20 miles now out ahead. Somebody's engaging bandits. Alright, we got F4 Phantoms out there to 11 o'clock as well. So all these aircraft are coming into KFAT. We're just over Ben Loi now. Okay, the F4s are considered our primary target. There's waypoint 4, waypoint 5, KFAT coming up next. Down there to the south. 15 miles out now, those F4s, so we're getting awfully close. It's about go time. We're within range of their Sparrows, if they care to take a look for us. GCI advising us we've got bandits at 10 miles out, directly ahead, and it's an A4 Skyhawk. So there's those A4s again. Less than 10 miles. We're probably getting to the point where I'm going to start ordering my guys to attack, because they should be within visual range at 10. And closest bandit, 9 miles, and it's the same A4. So yep, that's the closest one we've got. Let's order number 2 to start attacking these guys. Oh, huge bomb strike. Oh, just outside of KFAT. 2 is peeling off, drop tanks falling away, and as we zoom in I can see a whole gaggle of black specks. Possibly all American aircraft? Not sure which. Primary target F4, 12 o'clock high, Flight 1 engage air. 3 and 4 breaking off to start doing their own thing. Full afterburners, we pull up. And this F4 is diving down into me. Tucking around underneath, pulling hard back on the stick, blacking out. Looks like another Phantom up to the upper right, and something beyond it, maybe one of the other J5s. Let's switch over to this guy. Still in full afterburner. Another one down and to the left, crossing from my right. Another F4. 3 F4s, all ahead. 1, 2, and then 1 out to the upper right there. Let's send 2 after one of them, and I'm going to take the other guy. Jeez, there's number 3. Oh, this guy's pulling right into me, low and slow. Yikes! Got him, got him, got him. We probably ingested half that airplane into the fucking intake, into my engine, but we're still flying for the moment. F8 Crusader pulling in front of this F4, who is chasing one of my J5s. Ground fire coming up from the right. If this F4 stays oblivious and stays in this turn, we're gonna get him. Yeah, look at that! Clipped off his left wing. Covered in hits as he spins down, trailing fuel. Looks like the cockpits are empty already, the guys bailed out. Tucking down and under to clear my 6. Looks like we have some more furballs going on over here to the left. Oh, it's that Crusader pulling in behind my guy now. Crusader targeted. There's another Crusader up at 12 o'clock high, passing over us. He is pulling hard through the turn. He is very slow. Let's high yo-yo over him. Air brakes deployed. Oh, we're closing too fast. Oh, Jesus Christ. Flipped him the bird as we passed right by the cockpit. I've lost him. Where the fuck did he go? There he is. He pulled out in front, right into my cannons. Heavy flak, which is a slight danger to us as well. Looks like we've got a friendly behind us firing on this Crusader as well. Oh shit, I still have the tanks on board. Tanks away. This Crusader's pulling away from us though. He has superior acceleration and top speed. Alright, breaking off. We have another Crusader that's closer somewhere else. Let's move in on him. Oh yeah, just behind us, and he's being chased by a friendly. 23mm green tracers flying through the air behind him. Looks like that guy's pulling off the target, so I'm going to circle around and try to get onto his tail. Let's see where he goes now. If he tries to chase somebody, that may slow him down. Oh, looks like he's very far out. Missile passing from right to left. 12 o'clock low. Is there someone down to my right? I don't see anybody. This F8 is circling around now. Let's stay on him. Now that we're surrounded by enemies, Flight 1, engage air. 2, what's your status? Alright, he's still with us. He's got gun, no damage. 2, cover my 6. We have 2 F8s directly ahead of us, slowly spinning around, and what I think is KFAT, the army base just out there down on the ground, which is helping us with all this ground fire. Crusaders tucking under and over, coming around. Super close for a kill. Come on. Yes! He is on fire. Pieces flying off. He is done for. Actually, let's stay with him because we had a Crusader on fire last time, and he managed to pull out of it and put the fire out. So let's just make sure that this guy... Wow, random missile flying by in front of us. I don't know if that was a SAM. Probably not this far south. And the fire is out on this guy, so we need to finish him off. We can't let him get away. Come on. Ah, shit. He's missing pieces of his wing, and his engine is fucked. But we're not going to let him get out of here. Whoa! I felt the heat from that one. Holy shit. Alright, tuck under and over. Clear our 6. We'll dive right down on KFAT. In case there's anybody right behind it. Look, you can see the 4 lines of craters walking into the base. Only looks like superficial damage to the barracks, though. I don't think they did a lot of... I don't think they got a lot of hits. Dodging around. Friendly tracers who are firing at the second F8, which is coming head-to-head with us. Oh, out of ammo. To get this guy. Unable to comply. Shit, he must be too far away. Oh, man. Crusader still down there at the end of that flak row. Another American aircraft out to the left. Circling around. What's this guy doing? Is he still out there? Yep, he's still out there at 12 o'clock. Picking up flak, tracers. 2, what's your status? Okay, he's still out there. He's still got gun. But I'm done. I'm breaking off pursuit. I'm diving for safety and heading north. Let's get low and fast and just get out of here because we are no good to anybody anymore. Skimming the surface. Let's get the formation back together and tell them to just leave. Well, we're going to take this valley out, heading back up to the north to the waypoint. Ooh, something behind me. What was that? I think that was a friendly. There is an American, 8 o'clock high, out to my left. Pretty far out, though. He looks like he's not a factor. Yeah, 4 is out to my right, 2 is far behind. Oh, and 3 is out over the coast, out by the Honson Mountain. And somebody is under duress.
Hai, ta hiểu rồi.
Alright, I've changed the formation to trail
Bốn, ta hiểu rồi.
as we maneuver to stay in the crevices here in the earth. One of the problems I've had in the past is trying to get back to base. The wingmen get caught behind me under attack by Americans, so I just put everyone in trail, so it's going to force them to be out in front. So I'm going to be at the end of the trail formation, so that'll make it a little bit easier to act as a defensive barrier to the wingmen in case we get jumped by some American aircraft.
Nhấp chiều, chiều Việt Nam 007.
Okay, nearest band at 15 miles, it's this F4, and he is 6 o'clock high.
Hướng Bắc.
Full afterburners, maybe heading back out to sea. This looks like Ben Loi coming up in front of us, this army base. We're going to use it for its AAA coverage, in case there is anybody around.
Hướng Bắc Thảo Tháo.
F4 Phantoms firing missiles, 2 missiles now. Oh, this guy is messed up. He's got some pretty bad damage along his fuselage. Looks like he's still maneuvering, though. Hunson Mountain just out to the left, and we're over the coast. He's got 3 missiles left. He must be engaging number 3.
Ở sau mình. Hướng Bắc Thảo Tháo.
Let's see. Yeah, Nat Chu Flight 3. That's Captain Pham out over the ocean. Let's see what his situation is. 1, 2 Phantoms.
Có người.
Alright, he's in a turning fight with 2 Phantoms at the moment over the ocean.
Đang phương, chiều Việt Nam 007.
Let's encourage him to break that off and just get the hell out of there.
Ta đang tới.
Oh, this guy's... 4th Phantom! There's 4 Phantoms chasing this guy. Oh my god. Well, looks like one's pulling in right behind him, too. Oh, is he gonna pop a shot off? Seems likely. Friendly flak, though, is helping. There goes one. Yikes! Looked like a Sidewinder. Right past Pham. That was damned close. Probably, honestly, should have gotten an airburst there from that Sidewinder, but we know how shitty these early Sidewinders are. There's your 18% success rate. Hard at work. Taxpayers would be thrilled to see that. Let's see how far away. Okay. Nearest target is almost 40 miles away. As we get back on the course. So, I don't think we need to stay so low. I need to start climbing for altitude because we're down to 900 liters of fuel already. And once that gauge starts dropping, it drops fast. So we better get up to cruise altitude and get some fuel efficiency back so we can actually make it back to Kep without running out of gas. I don't want to get too crazy. Let's just go up right to the ceiling, right underneath these clouds here. And I'm going to switch right over to waypoint 8 and head directly back to Kep at this point. There we go, heading north. Looks like the Ma River out in front of us. Heading up towards Tanwa out to our right. Ma River still awfully far away from the airbase to be at 800 liters fuel and dropping. I think we've noticed the strange behavior of our fuel gauge in a couple of episodes. I haven't been sure if it's the main fuel gauge or an auxiliary tank or what. Even after the drop tanks come off, the gauge stays pegged at full for a long time, then suddenly drops like a rock to 0, then the engine shuts off. Well, friend of the channel, Ross Mum, finally gave me some information on what the hell is going on with the Mig Fuel System. and it finally makes things a lot clearer. The MiG-17 holds 1,435 liters of fuel in its internal tanks, with another 800 in drop tanks. The gauge here only shows the final 1,000 liters on board in the forward tank. The small lights around the fuel gauge should be illuminating to show when the other tanks are empty, but I don't know if this game simulates that. I can't remember seeing it. The only light I've taken note of is the low fuel light at around 160 liters, indicating that you're on your very last reserves. Apparently, this is a Soviet tradition dating back to World War II, only showing the final portion of the total fuel. This trend was finally broken with the MiG-21, which did have a gauge that showed total fuel on board, including the drop tanks. God, why is this guy still engaged in combat? Can we give him some assistance? Nope, another missile! GCI denies our request for assistance. These guys are so close, and they're not going to give up until they're either low on gas or they run out of missiles, and I don't know when that's going to be. Jeez. I don't think Captain Fam's going to make it. How the hell is he going to get out of this? Is he going to be able to beat off 3 F4s out for blood? Bandits. No shit. Although actually, who's saying that? 10 plus bandits right 1 o'clock 20 miles. Okay, so I think that's those A4s still. So it must have been 3 calling for these same bandits. Well, it looks like one of the F4s is gaining some distance. Maybe he's broken off. Catching flak out over the coast. Looks like one is still behind 3. 3, get out of there. Ugh. Coastline out to the right, we're down to 600 liters fuel. Two and 3 out front in position in trail, just below the cloud layer. Baddies are at 2 o'clock 20 miles. Not a factor. Oh, but we're only halfway between Vinh and Thanh Hoa. Oh, okay, our main enemy now is distance, relating to fuel consumption. That's the Ma River now. So that was just the Ka River behind us that we were passing over that I saw before. There's the Ma River now, the mouth of it going into the Gulf of Tonkin. Thanh Hoa at its base. We still have to get past that. And then still make it all the way back up to freaking Kep. You can just see the edge of the city out there in the haze and the mist now. Pull back the throttle a little bit as we're approaching 500 liters now. Our reserves are drying up fast. Dialed way back now to 200 liters per hour on the engine as we are still actually not even over the river yet. Oh my god, we have a bandit at 15 miles behind us. There's a goddamn F4 that has broken off to pursue us. Oh, you rat bastard son of a bitch. Fuck! Missile incoming! Break, break, break! Attack this guy. The fucking gas for this, you asshole. I don't even have ammo left, so let's try to send the wingmen after him at least. Diving right down into Tanwa now, hoping that the city defenses will help protect us. Flight 1, engage air. Oh, 7 miles back, he's got a single sidewinder left on the rail. Back down to low altitude now. Not good for the fuel consumption, but good for making these missiles go stupid. Here we go, tracers coming up at this guy from Tanwa. Nat 2 flight still with me. I don't think these guys even engaged like I told them to. 2, are you still good? Yeah, you still got gun. Engage the bandit. And 3, engage the bandit. They're just not doing it. They're staying with me. Here's 3 still turning and burning with an F4 way to the south. They're nowhere near me. 2 and 4 directly ahead of me, and 2 F4s behind me in a line. Another missile incoming. Zooming right behind me now. 2, attack my target. 4, attack my target. Somebody shoot these guys. They are all over us. Tons of AAA. F4 high and right. Another one just off to the right. And I need to continue heading north at all costs. There we go, 2 and 4 engaging. I think I said 2 and 3 earlier were with me. Obviously not the case. 2 and 4 were with me this whole time. 3 is still far to the south. I need you guys to engage, because you still have ammo left, and I do not. And I have no fuel left. F4 climbing up into the clouds. Oh, and this guy is out over the ocean. I think they're disengaging. Okay, 400 liters now. I'm going to tentatively start climbing up to altitude again. And we have to use a few precious liters of gas to get up there to do it. Friendly 11 o'clock. The F4s are 20 miles out now. Looks like they are disengaging for sure. Huh. Good. I think we're coming up on Nam Dinh already, which is a welcome sight. And we've burned through another 100 liters of fuel already. Wingmen back in formation already, passing overhead. Yeah, definitely Nam Dinh out to our right. Red River going off to the left. So we're getting closer to home. I'm up to 1,300 meters. I don't know how high I want to go before I just call it and level out and pull the power way, way, way back. Maybe 2,000? $1,800 meters.
Nhắc chiều Việt Giang 007 chó đĩa.
Nearest threat 50 miles away. Behind us, 5 o'clock.
Hướng đông.
There is 2,000. Okay. Wing leveler on. Throttle way back now to just be gingerly sipping the last 200 liters of fuel in the tank. There's Haiphong out to the right. A couple of bridges down there across the river. So we are getting close. But I do not feel comfortable yet. Oh, and we're actually slightly off course. We're not as close as I thought. Here's 3. Way out over the ocean, but looks like he has disentangled himself from those F4s, that flock of F4s, and looks like he's actually going to be able to rejoin us. I'm not going to lie, I wrote 3 off as a goner. He was going to be a sacrificial anode to get the rest of the squadron out safely, but somehow he dodged about 400 missiles, and he might actually make it back to Kep with us. Hanoi, up to the left. So I think this is actually Bac Yang in front of us coming up. As we are inching along at 400 kph. This is good though. If that's actually Bac Yang, and I believe it should be, then Kep should be just on the far side. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I breathe a sigh of relief as I have visual contact with our airbase. And now we're being shifted over to contact the tower. So at about, what is that, like 180 liters of fuel? We're going to line up on runway 30 and come in from this direction, make our overhead pass, and land. I think we'll be okay. It was close, but we're going to have a couple of extra liters as we come in to land. No need to dead stick it this time. And I think beginning a nice gentle turn to the left will get us lined up with runway 30. Low fuel light has just come on, that red light in the middle of the instrument panel. So we are in the danger zone, but there's the airport right there, so I think we'll be okay. Nav lights on as we roll out on the center line and get prepared for landing. Just about over the tower, Nat-Chu flight, brake for landing.
2, ta hiểu rồi, đi về nhà.
And around we go. Brakes out. Slow enough for gear. And now, there we go, 350. Oh, we're just on the cusp of flap speed, but gear coming down. Parasite drag will drag us down under that 350, I hope. Yeah, we're less than 350, so flaps, landing position, and we're on the downwind. Still up around 300 meters. Holding at about 250, and we're a beam of the landing point. So I'm going to cut in now for our turn to final, just over this tank farm. Air brakes out, pushing the throttle forward to keep the engine at high RPMs as we roll around. Still adjusting the throttle though, because we need to bring it down to around 200 kph. Descending nicely, there's the threshold. Rolling out on center line, getting a bit of stall buffet already. We're just kissing 200 kph. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Blip on the throttle, and we'll just let it settle down onto the runway. Nose high, touchdown. Perfect. Rolling to a stop right in front of the KEP control tower. Lights off, canopy open with shift 0, and we are safely home. The rest of the squadron also circling around to land. 2 and 4 out in front of us, and 3 should be safely back as well. So we'll see you over in the debriefing. Alright, we were to provide combat air patrol over the KFAT barracks. Prevent enemy aircraft from approaching the vicinity. Flight time was 56 minutes and 8 seconds. Result, mission was aborted. However, 3 primary targets were destroyed. For a partial success, score 1300. I will take a partial success. I was basically looking at this mission as a failure, and the game is giving us some credit, which I will gladly take. And in the stats, apparently all 3 primary targets went to me. Second Lieutenant Chow didn't even fire, even though I told him to attack targets like 14 times. Why wouldn't he do it? I have no idea. Captain Truck, he fired several rounds, although he didn't end up hitting anything. Captain Ton, no weapon fired either. Not really pleased with these guys' performance. As happy as I've been with the squadron's pilots the last couple of missions, this time they were just God, they're like monkeys fucking a football. Like, what the hell is going on out there? Unacceptable. Here's the roster, but not much to look at except for my 3 kills have gone up. No one else has made any progress. I mean, at least we didn't lose anybody, so there is that. So the funny thing is, I don't remember destroying a 3rd primary target because the game indicated that the F4 Phantoms were primaries, but I think I only destroyed 2 of them. So right out of the gate, in fact, 750-54, Lieutenant Win Van Koch destroyed that F4 Phantom. The guy flew right in front of my face, and God, the squad mechanics they just must hate me. Hate, because every time I come back, I've basically destroyed another WP5 engine because I have to get in so close. Well, I mean, I guess I don't have to, but I get in so close to ensure good hits on these targets that these American aircraft blow up right in front of my face every time. And there must be so much debris just getting sucked into the intake and knocking out fan blades in my compressor stages every single time I go up. But you know what? That's the cost of doing business. Fuck you, ground staff. I'm a national hero. Get over it. At 7:51:42, I dropped the second F4 after some fighting. I had a Sidewinder fired at me. At 7:52:58, a Crusader actually fired cannons at me, which is something I was not even aware of. I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly when that happened, because I did not see it. Luckily, he did not hit me, because that would have been quite the surprise. Another Crusader fired a Sidewinder at Lieutenant Tan, and then I hit a Crusader at 7:54:20, blew up a Crusader. So that must have counted as the 3rd primary target, so interesting. Okay, so at 7:56:18, we just begin a string of American missiles being fired at us. Just out of curiosity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 15. So 15 missiles fired at us over the course of 20-ish minutes, 15 minutes, as we tried to escape and scurry back home. Captain Truck, he took the brunt of most of these missiles. So Chow got fired at on the way out, and then I had 2 missiles fired at me at the end by those F4s that tried chasing us, but most of them were all at Captain Truck, and it's a combo of Sparrows and Sidewinders, all of which failed to hit. Very lucky for him, or good piloting, I guess. Truck's the only pilot that I'm not going to fucking tear into after this debriefing. Because the other 2 guys, I don't know what the hell they were doing. Truck tried to fire at an F4, which is not an easy target, and then he spent the rest of his time dodging missiles, because there were several others earlier than this. So he's okay. He's not on my shit list. But the other 2 guys are going to get reamed. Okay, well, maybe a good reaming will get these guys to straighten up and fly right in the next mission. We'll find out next time in Strike Fighters 2 North Vietnam. Until then, the squadron is going to have a nice little stand down because, like I said at the beginning, we're in that bombing halt through the rest of January. So we'll see you back then. We'll see what the Americans have in store when we come back.